Mayday, mayday! Do you copy?
What's this on the radio? Ship breaking up.
She's a T2 tanker, split right in half.
We got maybe 2-3 hours, and then we sink.
Chief, pick yourself a crew, and you assist that ship.
In the finest hours, we have a great bunch of dudes. We spend hours out on that boat.
It's a tough shoot for the actors, and they really persevered with it. These guys came together, and it came from a true place.
Not giving up on her. Not on my watch.
Chris Pine is fantastic. It is cold and it is wet, and it is good to have somebody who is a leader and keeps the spirits up among the rest of the cast. Chris definitely does that.
Chris, he's got just a ton of natural charisma. He's very likable. You root for him. I spent a lot of time with all of these guys. It's like summer camp, you know, times 10.
Betsy! The engine guy!
I liked building the teamwork as we went on. It's built a camaraderie up. We had to go over a wave and everybody had to shout out commands. It was just this moment of, this is it, this is the team, this is how they did it.
You got about 5 seconds, boys!
These guys are real deal actors, they're hard workers. These guys are builders. We come to work and we build things together. It's been a pleasure working with these fellas.
You okay?
I'm having a great time now, buddy! Lot of fun!
You spend so much time making these films that the friendships you make and people you meet, those are the things that last. I'm really grateful for that.
We all live, but we all die. Hold on!
Mayday, mayday!
Coast Guard, they say you gotta go out. But they don't say you gotta come back in.
The finest hours is about the United States Coast Guard potentially sacrificing their own lives to help other people. And we're excited to show that there are actual people in this world that do that.
We just got underway. We're going to be doing some small boat operations.
On a day that we fly, we'll practice hoisting with small boats.
Storm survivor coming up.
They're patrolling the shore for any signs of vessels in distress.
6570, all hands are present.
We're just gonna do a couple wide turns.
And you can just see how quick the boat make a turn at speed, and that power is good when responding to emergency.
Let's set the small boat launch detail. We'll launch for boardings, any kind of law enforcement to make sure that the water we're going into is the right depth.
Permission to launch, Captain?
Roger, they have permission to launch.
This story tells really the true story of the Coast Guard. And as you see in this film, they're willing to put their lives on the line for others.
My finest hour would definitely be my first rescue. I was out on a routine training flight, and on the radio, all of a sudden you hear a mayday. 3 preachers ran their boat hard aground. We got them out there and got them to the hospital.
My finest hours case is yet to come, but that's why I'm here. That's what I want to do, and I'll be ready for that.
We all live, but we all die.
They're saying this is going to be the biggest storm that ever hit the East Coast.
The Finest Hours is a great, true story about the most successful rescue in Coast Guard history. There's this terrible storm in 1952 with waves 40, 50, 60 feet high.
And a ship called the Pendleton just split in half.
Chief, pick yourself a crew, and you assist that ship.
Yes, sir. Bernie Weber is a very blue-collar kind of man who hasn't really found his voice quite yet because he just doesn't have much experience.
He's the underdog in the film. The odds were so absurd for them actually making it, but because the situation was so dire with the Pendleton, they went for it.
The compass is gone! We got no idea where they are!
We got maybe 3 hours, and then we sink.
The captain's gone. I can't call nobody.
The chief engineer on the Pendleton, Ray Siebert, found himself suddenly being the highest-ranking man on the ship.
You trying to kill us?
That boat is too small for these seas. Now, every fella here wants to live. The only way that happens is if we work together.
He wasn't comfortable in leading all these men, but he had no other choice.
You heard him, boys. Now move it. Come on.
Gotta move in here.
Maybe we should just go back!
No, we came too far. We're not giving up on him. Not on my watch.
We got faith in you, Skip!
Brace yourselves!
And it's a story of hope and courage. Men that went into the face of great danger to help other people. And without people like that, where would we be?
The heroics of these two men is just amazing, and they don't really know how strong they are until they step up.
We all live and we all die. Wait! Hold on!
We had a sport fisher boat that came into port, and he suddenly realized that his own brother fell overboard. It was nighttime, it was very cold water, very little hope of finding him. I deployed a helicopter, a small boat, and a patrol boat. And after several hours of searching and 7 hours of treading water, the Coast Guard found this man. Everybody was cheering in the command center, and there's no greater feeling than saving a life.
Mayday, mayday! Do you copy?
We got maybe 3 hours, and then we sink.
Chief, pick yourself a crew and you assist that ship.
It's your job to go out, right?
Coast Guard, they say you gotta go out. But they don't say you gotta come back in.
I'm not giving up on him. Not on my watch.
I remember asking Bernie Weber how he felt when he was out there at sea. And he looked at me and he said, you either got through that rescue or the other option was death.
I was really eager to tell a story about the people who basically are the guardians of those that go out and make a living and a life on the water.
I've seen a lot of rescues documented, and I've never seen anything like this.
I just realized, oh my God, what an amazing, powerful story.
The idea of this small boat, this 36-foot boat, having to go out in 70-foot seas in February, where they risk hypothermia if they're in the water for 2 minutes, in a blizzard, with no navigation at night, was just astounding.
The town of Chatham is beautiful. It's one of the most picturesque seaside communities in the world.
The town was very small. There was only 3,000 people. It's on the elbow of Cape Cod, and everybody's proud of their town. They really are.
What I would say about the people in Chatham is there's a kindness and a giving quality.
Families go back generations there.
Just growing up and seeing your name all over town and knowing your 13th great-great-great-great-grandfather founded the town 350 years ago, it's a lot of fun.
Back then, in the 50s, generation after generation have been fishermen, lobstermen.
The fishing industry was big. The fish was brought in 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it would be at the Fulton Fish Market the next morning.
A good deal of the town made its living from the sea, so the Coast Guard and the fishermen were almost one.
The life-saving service had stations all along here, probably more than any other place in the country.
There's been as many as 3,000 shipwrecks along the coast of the Cape, so it's been a very busy area for the Coast Guard.
In fact, they call that general area from the tip of Provincetown to the elbow of Chatham the graveyard of the North Atlantic.
The Coast Guard would help the fishermen if boats became loose in a storm, and Bernie was doing that the morning of the rescue.
Bernie Weber was the son of a Baptist minister from Milton, Massachusetts. He said, I couldn't do what my father did. So when Bernie was about 15 years old, he joined the Merchant Marine, and later he joined the Coast Guard.
He made his living on the water all his life, either a tugboat captain or operating a large cutter in Vietnam.
My dad was awesome. He was a really mellow guy. And my mother was a telephone operator in Wellfleet, and she used to listen in on phone conversations. She was listening one night and heard a call coming through from this guy, and she was intrigued and interested and loved his voice and found out that he called himself Webb. She knew very soon into the relationship that she wanted to marry him.
There was sort of this earnestness about him that we tapped into and wanted to sort of use as a character trait, where he has to sort of grow as a person and become his own captain and make his own decisions.
February 18th, 1952. It was the time of one of the most devastating winter storms that New England had ever faced.
And there were 2 oil tankers coming up on the outer side of Cape Cod. One was the Fort Mercer and one was the Pendleton.
They get trapped in this storm off the coast of Cape Cod. And almost at the same time, 20 miles apart, both ships snap in half, leaving 84 men trapped on the bow and stern sections of each of these vessels.
One of them got off an SOS. The whole east coast of the Coast Guard went to this one tanker. All their 200-foot cutters sent out from Boston and Nantucket. The other guys didn't. It split so abruptly that the front half sunk. All the officers were gone and communications, but the back half stayed afloat, and it floated by Chatham.
I mean, I just remember you telling us the stories about how dramatic it was for you to watch it from your window and not be able to do anything.
Looking out the window, I could see this big black hulk rise up and then go down, and you knew they were 50, 60-foot waves.
If you went to the parking lot of the Chatham Coast Guard Station, you could look to the southward, and you would see the Pendleton sitting on the sandbar.
Daniel Clough is the commanding officer of Coast Guard Chatham, and he looks at Bernie and he says, Bernie, pick yourself a crew, you got to go out to the stern.
Basically, there's one boat left, which is this 36-foot boat, the actual 36-500.
Bernie's thinking, he's sending me on a suicide mission. I don't want to pick myself a crew, because I'd be saying you, and you are going to come with me to my death.
The way the water was that day, 60 to 70-foot waves, way out in the ocean, the bottleneck to get out to the deep sea was this ravishing sort of torrent of water called the bar.
Bernie Weber said, I wasn't even thinking about what I'd do if and when I found the Pendleton. I was thinking, how the hell am I going to get over the bar? And they meet a wall of water, and it just slams them back. And then the subsequent wave hits them so hard, it comes through the windshield, blows out the windshield, and sweeps away the compass. They even lose engine power, and if the boat broaches, if it's sideways to these waves, they're going to go over, and they're going to die. Hypothermia will kill them like that. And this is where he took the step to be heroic.
I can't imagine what he went through, but he'd wait for the right sequence of waves and give it the power to go over.
He gave it much more power and actually went partly through the wave.
As they were crossing the bar, my father felt like there were supernatural powers surrounding the boat and that the Lord had his hand on his shoulder.
I don't know how, but all 4 men happened to hang on, and he couldn't believe it when they came out on the other side and all 4 of them were alive and together.
You can just imagine what these men had to endure just to stay on that boat and stay afloat. And again, they had no idea where they were going.
They groped around in the dark. He said we actually heard it before we saw it. It was the groaning metal from where it had torn in half.
And Bernie's heart sank. And he said, oh my God, this is a ghost ship. There are no signs of life. I've just jeopardized the lives of my 3 crew members, and we're never getting back to shore.
I always remember him saying, when I first saw it, my thought was, I gotta get myself and my crew up there. That's safer than the little boat. We're just getting hammered out here.
They saw signs of life. They saw 1 man.
Down came the Jacob's ladder, and men just started coming down.
When you're thrust into a situation like that, he knew he could not leave people on the boat.
And that little lifeboat had to keep its distance, otherwise it would have gotten sucked under the hull.
And he said you'd have to kind of come in, get 1 man, he might jump onto the boat or he might miss and be in the water, and Irvin and Andy or Richard would grab him.
Before hypothermia could set in and before the next wave sent them literally to their deaths.
Imagine kind of doing this over and over.
And they're stacking these men like cords of wood on this little lifeboat, a lifeboat that's only designed to hold 12 men.
They get to the 32nd man, nicknamed Tiny Myers, jumps. Here's the rescue boat, here's the hull of the tanker. Tiny Myers is in the water between the 2. They get slammed together and I don't know if Tiny was killed instantly or not, but they lost him. Bernie had a big decision to make. Do we look for Tiny, or do we get the last guy who's hanging off the Jacob's ladder? He figured we'll go for the guy we know who's alive. He said we're groping around in the dark, and he's thinking, I'm gonna follow the waves and hope for the best. It's gonna be a long shot if we make it, because we're riding so low. And he said, I can't explain what happened next, but without me knowing it, a big wave hurled us right over the Chatham Bar. And he said we went from these big 50-foot swells back into 8-foot seas. And he said, I knew we had made it.
So when Bernie and his men are out at sea, the town of Chatham mobilizes, because if they make it back, those men are going to be cold, wet, and hungry.
My father was part of the volunteer firemen. They were starting to gear up for this. There was a lot of confusion apparently about what was happening.
I heard the rescue on the Coast Guard radio when I was 12. They would chatter back and forth, and then there were gaps, a lot of gaps, and nobody was saying anything.
And they wanted everybody in the station wagon to come down to the fish pier to transport the survivors off the Pendleton to the Coast Guard station.
When they came back to the pier, you know, half the town is there. They see the boat pull up, and they can count 5 men, the 4 rescuers and just 1 survivor. And they're thinking, oh, what a shame. They risked their lives and they only got 1. And when it knocked up against the pier, it was kind of like a clown car. The hatch comes up, and out from this survivor's compartment comes the 31 other men to join the one on the deck. A total of 36 men on a 36-foot boat, which is just mind-blowing.
Weber and his crew, they looked exhausted. They were wet and cold.
I remember it well. I was standing right behind you that night, but I was a little boy.
I was born the night that the Pendleton went down. Dr. Hopkins was also taking care of the rescued crew members.
Yes, and he would come and see about me, and then he'd rush back in the storm to check on the people that were coming off the Pendleton.
All those survivors were fed breakfast by my mother and a couple other people at St. Martin's Lodge Hall.
A lot of the guys were having issues because they'd start to pass out. They'd get faint and weak when they really realized what all those guys experienced.
I remember there was no really jubilation about that rescue. The word around town was not that they had saved 32, but they didn't save the last one.
That was really hard on the rescuers later. Andy had nightmares, could see Tiny Meyer's face right there. He had him in the water, and they lost him.
Bernie never got over that.
No.
The guys on my job sites, I ask them, you know, next time when it's a good howling snowstorm, can you imagine getting the order to say, hey, why don't you take that 36-foot boat and go out over the bar? And, someone needs help out there somewhere.
They did it.
Unbelievable.
The spirit of Bernie Weber is alive and well in today's modern U.S. Coast Guard.
The Coast Guard decided to name its state-of-the-art Sentinel-class cutters after enlisted heroes, and the first in series was named after my father. I wasn't aware of his legend at all, but I was very aware that I had a totally awesome dad.
He was very humble in that sense, and you know, even to the point when he was offered the medallion, he refused to take it unless they gave it to all of the crew members.
You know, he wasn't wearing that gold life-saving medal around. He put it away, and that was that.
This is a movie about superheroes. They don't wear capes and they don't wear tights. They wear hand-me-down foul weather gear and galoshes from World War II.
I am so incredibly proud of my father. And you know, he wasn't heading out on this mission because he was brave and he was amazing. He was doing it because he has a very caring, loving heart. He felt capable. He knew that boat and he knew he could do it. And I'm extremely proud of him. And I think he's amazing. I wish I had told him that, but I guess I might have, but I'm very thankful for having such awesome parents.